Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Thursday, the 30th of November. It's game day as Rangers prepare to take on Aris of Cyprus in the Europa League this evening. Crunch game for Rangers. A victory would guarantee them group knockout stage football into the new year. To look ahead to the game, we're joined by a full squad this morning. First of all, Chris Jack. How are we doing, Chris?
Derek, not bad. Looking forward to getting back to Ibrox tonight. Hopefully see a reaction from Sunday, which wasn't good, and hopefully see a reaction from the first game against Aris, which was even worse.
Yeah, we all hope that is going to be the case. And I'm delighted to say we're joined by Stel from the This Is Mappa podcast. You'd have encountered Stel when we looked ahead to that first initial game over in Limassol a good few weeks ago, and he's on just to give us a wee bit of insight into Aris and what we can expect tonight. How are you doing, Stel?
Yeah, good morning, Derek. Good morning, Chris. I'm good. Yourselves? All good?
Yeah. We're just saying off air, we're absolutely Baltic right enough. It's we're well and truly in the grips of winter.
Yeah. We're nearly there in London. Nearly there, but not quite. We're getting there.
How much are you looking forward to this game tonight, Stel?
I'm looking forward to it purely as a neutral. Believe it or not, I support another team in Cyprus, but it's great to see a Cypriot team in Europe. We haven't had a decent run since obviously last season with 𝐁𝐥𝐚𝐲 and my team Omonia. We got to the group stages, but you know it's always nice seeing our teams in the group stages because we very rarely get there, and when we do, we don't have high expectations. So beating Rangers in the first game came as a big surprise to me, especially given Aris' form at the time. But it's great to always to see our teams there. We don't get there, as I said. It's very rare that we do. So yeah.
It should be an intriguing contest this evening. If you want to get your questions over to Stel, folks, then please don't be shy. Get them in, and we'll direct as many of them to Stel as possible. Just a quick word for our podcast sponsor before we talk all things Rangers, the MPH Group. If you're looking to maybe replace your boiler, these are the guys to call. They've got a fantastic winter boiler deal on offer at this moment in time. They offer flexible finance options as well. The all-important links are in the description below, so do go and check them out if that's something you're thinking of. And just a reminder, you've only got a couple of days left for our Black Friday deal. We're offering a full year's worth of content on the Rangers Review site for just £12. Head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe for all the details. It's our best ever offer, and the amount of you that have already signed up is quite staggering. So we've been blown away by that. So thank you to each and every one of you. Right, Chris, Philippe Clement was conducted his press conference yesterday. Interesting as ever in terms of team news. No Nico Raskin, no Ryan Jack. Scott Wright, I think, is highly doubtful for this game. We all know that Connor Goldson is suspended. He's got a sort of bit of a headache trying to select players tonight, is he not?
It's not the easiest team selection. Once again, I asked him about the team news yesterday at the press conference, and of course he mentioned the guys that are not on the European list. Those decisions by Michael Beale clearly still are irking him somewhat. He's also not happy with the squad that he's been left, but I think the team tonight all but picks itself. There's not that many options. I think the centre half pairing will be John Souttar and Ben Davies. I know as we spoke about the other day, Derek, also Leon King's in with a shout as well. I would like to see Leon get a game. I think it's a good opportunity for him and a game that Rangers should win, and a game that's a good occasion. But I think it'll be Souttar and Davies. Ahead of that, Lundstrom and Cifuentes, I think, probably get another goal. I think it's really that kind of front three in behind Danilo that's interesting part. Does Ross Mccausland come back in? Do we stick with Todd Cantwell on the right hand side? Do we see Matondo come back in? If he does come back in from the start, on which side is that? Does he then go left where he's perhaps more effective? Do we put him in the right and hopefully try and get a tune out of him there and keep Seema on the left? So there's definitely options for the manager, certainly middle to front. It's actually interesting to see how he sees it. I don't think we'll be able to read too much into it in terms of how Rangers will shape up in the coming games. I think this is almost like a standalone game just within this run. but there's certainly plenty of options there, and it'll be interesting to see who gets the nod and also who impresses.
𝐿𝐤𝐷, I think it will be a Souttar-Davis partnership. Although he never mentioned John Souttar yesterday, did he, Chris, about his availability tomorrow night? Well, tonight, sorry.
No, but didn't say he was out, so we're assuming therefore that he's in.
We'll find out around about 6:30, I'm sure, whether he's in or not. But Leon King, I'm with you as well. I'd like to see more of him. I think if he doesn't get any opportunities between now and January, I'd be one for possibly sending him out on loan somewhere. I think it will do him the world of good getting regular game time. In terms of a few questions come in for yourself already, Stel, but in terms of Aris Limassol, do they have any injury concerns, suspensions heading into this one?
Well, as far as I'm aware, 𝐁𝐥𝐚𝐲 could be out. He's been one of the most important players this season, especially in Europe. He picked up an injury against 𝐺𝐷 before the international break. He was stretchered off. So I don't know if he flew to Scotland. I haven't seen any photographs from training, and they don't really talk about injury updates in press conferences in Cyprus. So I don't know about that. There's also Bengtsson and Brorsson, the two Swedes. Now, they didn't play at the weekend against 𝐵𝐷. For them not to play either tells me they were rested, which would be confusing for me because 𝐵𝐷, one of the big teams out there, so it's a derby game. So for them not to play, perhaps they were either rested or maybe they had a few niggles. But aside from that, I think they're pretty much at full strength.
Interesting. A few questions coming in for you. First of all, Kevin Robb says, I remember this guy and the crazy stories he had to tell about what it was like regards to football over there. Yeah, absolutely. It's a bit scare him at times over there in Cyprus. Entertaining, that's for sure. There's a question that's come in here from Thassos. He says, Stel, why don't you say something about Aris's social media presence? I'm not too sure if this is a guy you know, Stel, but they have been pretty relentless with their memes and the little videos and what have you since, I think, that victory over Rangers. Is that a normal thing? Do they normally do that? Or is that they've ramped it up in recent weeks?
Okay, so in Cyprus, they do things very different to everywhere else. Their media coverage of football it's not great. Journalists are very, how can I put it, very archaic in the way that they do things. So Aris come along with this different social media behavior, and people go crazy. It's new to them. You know, it's like when humans first discovered fire. That's how it is. So I think with Aris, what they do, they're very different to most clubs in Cyprus. I know they're trying to get a different kind of fan base because they don't have a big fan base in Cyprus. In all fairness, they're one of the smallest clubs, if you want to talk about fan base. They don't compare with 𝐵𝐷 and Omonia, Apollon, etc. So they're trying to get fans from outside Cyprus, which is understandable. Now, what they did following the Rangers victory, okay, I get why they did it, and I get that it attracted a lot of Celtic fans who started following them. I would have done things a little bit different personally, being someone that works in social media. But if that's how they feel is going to give them traction and views and clicks, fair play. But at the same time, as you know, it can end up slapping you in the face. So I think they could have approached it with more caution. I don't think they've been disrespectful or derogatory in any way, but at the same time, you've got to conduct yourself in a certain manner, especially as a professional football club. So I think even Mr. Shpilevsky said it in his press conference that, you know, I'm a coach, so I don't talk about the media side of things. I don't talk about marketing, etc. So I'm just focused on my players. And we did an interview with the technical director of Aris before the international break, and asked him about the branding and the marketing, which is spot on with what they're doing. And he said, look, I don't talk about that side of things. I just talk about the football. So perhaps it's worth speaking to someone from their media team and finding out their reasons behind it. Again, I think it's all baiting in all fairness, and it's worked. It's worked. So it's done the trick. Yeah. But at the same time, again, I think while they are creative with what they're doing, sometimes you can go a little bit over the line. And perhaps I think it's an educational side of things. I think it's a cultural thing. They don't realize that, you know, while there is banter in the UK, some people take it to heart and maybe they could have done things a little bit different. But yeah, Thusso is my co-host on This Is Mappa, and I think he knows how to push my buttons, because when he talks about stuff like this, I go off on one. So cheers, Thusso. I can't use any swear words on this show, so I'm going to leave it at that.
Yes, but it's before the watershed. But yeah, thank you for your point. Clip Andrew with the points there. The social media is funny in truth. Yeah, hopefully we're not seeing a glut of those videos after tonight. That's for sure.
If they win, forget it. Just lock off social media. They're going to go on for days and days and days. I don't blame them, but yeah,
I can't even get to think about it. To be honest, still. What's the weather forecast for the game? I'd imagine it'll be bitterly cold, buddy. So wrap up warm if you're heading to Ibrox tonight. Chris, you were in Cyprus for that first game. Best forgotten about, it's fair to say, but Rangers are a different proposition now, are they not? I expect Philippe Clement to get this team firing from the first whistle. As you said as well, we want to see a bit of a reaction after a pretty disappointing Sunday up there at Pittodrie. So the Rangers fans that are turning up at Ibrox tonight will be expectant. Will they get a performance, do you think?
I think you'd have to back them to go and put one in. It would be a major shock. It would certainly be a bigger shock second time around if Aris were to pull it off again and somehow win tonight. It would be an even bigger upset than the first game. Rangers obviously went out to Cyprus days after losing Michael Beale. Steve Davis had just been put in, a squad low on confidence, a squad that hadn't picked up enough points domestically, a squad that hadn't put in a solid performance for a long time, and it just felt like one of those nights where things could go wrong. Within the first couple of minutes, we thought, nah, this has got a bad feel about it. And as it turned out, it just turned into one of those nights. Nothing went right for Rangers on the night. Aris were worthy of the victory. They've lapped it up since then. Fair play to them. But this is a night for Rangers to really show their strength in the group. We know that a win also puts them into knockout rounds, gives them then a chance going to Seville to play Betis and match day 6, or a chance to finish top of the group, which also has its benefits as well. So I would be stunned if history repeats itself. I know that it's perhaps not the strongest Rangers side we're going to see. I sort of spoke about some of the selection issues that the manager's got, but it's still a Rangers team that's far superior to Aris, that should be winning this type of game comfortably. And as you say, Derek, the Ibrox crowd is turning up tonight expecting a result, expecting a performance, expecting a reaction after Aberdeen. So I think it's a really interesting night for Rangers just to put together all those factors. But you'd have to imagine, as a lot of the comments are saying, you'd have to imagine that Rangers win this one fairly comfortably.
I'd like to think so. There's questions coming in. The Prague Betis game is taking place earlier this evening. That's one of the 5:45 kickoffs, folks. So we will know the outcome of that before Rangers take to the field. Was it a bit of a shock for you that result over in Limassol, Stel? I think Rangers were in a different proposition to what they are now. Temporary manager, the manager, as Chris said, had just been sacked. They looked all over the place. But how was it treated in Cyprus? Was it a sort of a big shock over there?
I think it was a shock because we know the size of Glasgow Rangers, the history of the club. We've had some incredible players over the years. We know the stature of the club. So it was a shock. And it was also a shock because Aris weren't in good form at the time. So going into that game, it was, well, they'll either get pounded or they'll get a point at least. But to win was a bit of a shock. But then again, when you look at the form that Rangers were in at the time, I think you guys lost at home to Aberdeen prior to the game, if I'm not mistaken. So, and obviously Michael Beale was sacked. Yeah, you had the interim coach. So it could have gone either way for both sides. I was more surprised with how Aris started the game because I thought they'd be a bit more conservative in their approach, but they started on the front foot from minute one. And I think maybe that was the plan from Szpilewski. He saw that Rangers were wounded. Okay, you can always look at a wounded animal such as Rangers and think, right, they need a response. And with the travelling supporters, it's practically a home game for Rangers. You know, I think there was more Rangers fans than Aris fans there, in all fairness. But for them to win in the manner in which they won as well, it was convincing. And I was surprised. I was very surprised. But it's going to be a totally different game tonight. Rangers are unbeaten under this new head coach. Or I know you drew at the weekend against Aberdeen. I know you got a couple of injuries. And, Aris got a good victory at the weekend against Apoel. it could go either way. You know, I think people are going to be talking about the weather and the conditions and how Aris players will cope with it. But a lot of the players in that squad, they've played in these conditions. You know, Kogorin is from Russia. Stepinski is from Poland. Borison and Bengtsson, Sweden. Zoke from Slovakia. So it's not as if they've got players that haven't played in icy conditions in the past. So I don't think the weather will be a massive factor. I'm certain the atmosphere will play a big part. So let's see.
Yeah. There's a point that came in, Chris. Philip Clement, and of course, news over the last few days was that Ross Mccausland has signed that contract extension until 2027. He was put up for the press yesterday. Spoke very well and spoke of his delight at signing that new deal as well. Stephen T with a point here. He says Mccausland has done enough to deserve a start tonight. Would you like to see young Ross start tonight? And how big a boost is that to see him pen that new deal? We heard a bit of noise that other teams were sniffing about him to commit his future to Rangers, I think is a big plus.
Ross is in the predicted team that I sent to Josh yesterday. So if Josh then wants to send that on to Philip Clement, then that's his. That's 11 he can go with. No, I think Mccausland has, as Stephen says, I think he's done enough to deserve a start. It's been a great couple of weeks for him. He spoke about yesterday about still having sleepless nights after the goal at Livingston was chopped off. But I think he over the last few weeks he's been on this remarkable rise from. He was probably the only bright spot on that night in Cyprus. Came on the last 6 minutes or so, I think it was, and looked bright, looked sharp. Then also get more minutes against St Mirren. New manager has come in, and he's just gone from strength to strength after that. He's now starting games. He should have had his goal at Livingston. He's had his international call up and made his MA's debut. Now signed a new long-term contract. There's just so much good in Ross Mccausland's life at present. I think if he could get a start tonight, you would certainly back him to go and do a really good job. It's not as if it's Betis at Ibrox. Maybe you think it's maybe a level 2 up. With all respect to Aris, you would think he should be able to go in there and do a job. And I think his case has been boosted over the last couple of games because there's still huge doubts about Cantwell on the right hand side. Also, Matondo still working his way back up to full fitness. If you're looking for a pacey wide man to play on the right hand side, Ross Mccausland is your man right now. That's not to say he will be the mainstay in that area of the side over the next few weeks. I think that the manager has used him well. He's dipped him in and brought him in and taken him back out again in a good fashion. But I think tonight it all seems set for him. I'm going to give him a start, give him a shot. If it's not going well after an hour, I say you do then have Matondo. You do have other options on the bench to change it if it's not proven to be Ross's night. But I think just the way the last couple of weeks have gone for him, it does just kind of feel that tonight could be another really special night for him.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. Let's get to a few of the comments that are coming in. There is loads of them. First of all, Donald Sinclair, just on the Black Friday offer. How long is the offer on for the £12 a year? It ends at midnight tomorrow, Donald. So, time is running out for that one. rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe to sign up. Slightly left field, but with January approaching still, Fraser Simpson says, any hidden gems in the Cypriot League do you feel would be a good buy for Rangers? Are there any that stand out for you?
Oh, my goodness. Okay, I'm just trying to think. There's one player that plays for my team, Omonia, called Loizos Loizo. He's a right winger. He's actually been scouted by a few Portuguese clubs, and he was linked with a move to a club in the Netherlands. I can't say which one. But yeah, he's one of the bright talents of Cypriot football. If we want to talk about Cypriot players, we've got a load of foreign players in Cyprus. I think 90% of the league is made up of foreign players. So there's quite a few of them. There's Marquinhos at Apoel. They've got a left back called 𝐻𝐿 from Fluminense. He's on loan. He's a very good player, to be honest. Great attacking fullback. There's quite a few. I could reel off a whole list of them, but I think I'll probably be very biased to mention a lot of players that my team has. I mean, we've got Fouad Bachirou. I think Bash was at Queen of the South, I think. Yeah. Hamilton, was it Hamilton?
Yeah.
Can't remember.
He rings the bell, yeah.
So he plays for my team. He's a good guy as well as Bash. So yeah, there's a lot of players out there, but I can't really reel a list because I'll sound very, very biased. And I think we've seen the thing is we've got a lot of players playing outside of Cyprus at the moment in Belgium, MLS, etc. And they've they haven't done as well as we'd have wanted. I mean, Bidtai is the only one that seems to be doing really well at the moment. He was banging in goals for 𝐁𝐥𝐚𝐲 in Sweden. He actually scored enough goals to keep them up this season. Henning Berg's their head coach. He's the one that took him out there. So, you know, we've got quite a few, but I think 𝐼𝐸 are the benchmark at the moment because they're the champions. So it's best to look at their squad, to be fair.
Yeah, right winger, certainly my ears pricked up when you said that. Craig Andrews says, does he know any goal scorers? Rangers are Danilo aside, I think that they've not recruited well in the summer, Stel, in terms of strike force. No Cyril Dessers started in Limassol. I'd be amazed if he was to start tonight. But yeah, in terms of the strike force, Rangers really needing to boost their firepower in January. Is any strikers you think that would do a ton for Rangers?
From the Cypriot League, I'm just trying to think. Well, there's one player that's actually on loan at a club called Apollon. His name's Marquez. He's on loan from Nijmegen in the Netherlands, and he's a tasty player. He's one of those players where you know that he will do well in Cyprus, but he can actually do it in a higher league as well. Yeah. So I think he'd be a good player, but obviously he's on loan to Apollon until the end of the season. But yeah, Marquez certainly would be a good player.
Interesting. Huge thanks to Sam, who's donated to the channel. Thank you very much for your donation, buddy. All I want is 3 points and no more Cantwell on the right. Does he get a point there, Chris? I think I discussed this on the show. I think it was Tuesday. Was it Tuesday? I think it was a members Q&A show yesterday with Ali. It may have been about Cantwell on the right-hand side. I'm sure me and you have discussed it at length. Also, I'd like to see that come to an end. I just don't think he's we get the best out of him over on that right-hand side. Me and you both would like to see Ross Mccausland start there tonight. Do we move Cantwell more centrally?
I think that's how you get the best out of Todd Cantwell, and I think that's the best thing for Rangers overall. I know Josh had a piece on the website, I think it was last week, going through Cantwell's role on that right-hand side, going through some of the reasons why the manager's tried it, going through some of the reasons why it has worked in spells. I think overall, though, if you ask anybody that's walking into Ibrox tonight, where do you want to see Todd Cantwell playing, you won't get many people saying on the right-hand side. I don't think Sam will be I don't think he'll be alone in that regard. I think that it gives the team a wrong balance for me personally. I don't like it. I would rather have a more direct, pacey option on the right-hand side. So obviously, ideally someone that mirrors Sima on the left. So personally, it's not for me. I think Cantwell's more effective as the 10. I think tonight's probably a good chance for that to happen, because his numbers overall this season are not that impressive. Now, for a guy who a lot of people rate as one of the best players on the team, certainly one of the most creative players on the team, he's not really done enough. He's kind of gone through the season and been okay in spells. Also had that, was it Hibs, the pass for Dessers. So he's had nice moments in games, but not really stamped his authority on the season as a whole. I don't think playing on the right hand side has helped him in that regard. But so if he's moved into a more central area, played as a 10, played in the area where most people want to see him, he then really has to step it up, because once he's then in that area of the pitch, there is then no excuses for him. If his form then doesn't improve and we don't see him chipping in with the goals and assists as we expected, that then becomes a conversation of, does he merit a place in the team in general? No, does he just merit a place in the team on the right-hand side or as number 10? So I think it's a big few weeks for Cantwell coming up. Hopefully we see a bit more of Mccausland. Obviously Matondo's back as well, so that then does give the manager another wide option. Hopefully we see Cantwell back in a more central area, and we can see him raise his levels to the heights that we all think that he can actually reach.
Yeah, Scott with a point here. He says, I was out in Limassol for the first game. Thought Ari looked very pacey on the counter attack. Do you expect them to play a similar style tonight, Stel?
Yeah, for sure. Spilevsky won't change his system based on the opponent. He plays to his side's strength. So, what we saw against Rangers is what we've seen throughout his tenure at Aris. So it wouldn't surprise me if he sticks with a similar system. I think the game against Rangers in Cyprus, I think Gomis played up front, whereas Bambika was on the right-hand side. But now Gomis is out. I think it might either be Stepinski or Kokorin starting with Bambika on the right-hand side and him against Barisic. That'll be an interesting one again.
It'll be intriguing to see how they approach the game, but I think the onus is on Rangers to take it to them. Just going back to January, I'll do with the point here, Chris. I think we've discussed where Rangers need to look to strengthen come the January transfer window. He says, any rumours who we're targeting for January, Chris? I'd imagine a striker is on the priority list, as I think perhaps right winger, perhaps left side centre half. I think Rangers should be looking at any other positions you think they need to strengthen in.
No, the manager touched on January deals in his press conference yesterday, and still said, look, it's still far too early. I've been here 5 weeks. We're 5 weeks away from the transfer window. He did say that they've got ideas and they've talked about it, and they're obviously starting to put those plans in place. I don't think you'll get a running commentary on his transfer business like we did with Michael Beale. He's certainly not going to be as open in terms of what he wants or who he wants, or discussing players or targets. It felt like Michael Beale's pressers were dominated on transfer talk from 6-7 weeks before the end of last season, all the way through the summer, and then the first few weeks of this season. That was really the only topic of conversation. I don't think we're going to get very far in terms of the manager standing up rumours. But I think, as you say, Derek, I think the areas of the side are fairly obvious where we need a bit more strength and depth, certainly a bit more quality. If you have to offer me two, I would take a right-sided forward and take a striker, because that's the areas of the squad that are a bit weaker. Certainly through the middle, I think that becomes a priority, because we know what Danilo can do. We've been really impressed with him since he came back into the squad. Dessers obviously huge doubts over him. Roof, who knows, back in training, back in squads, but are you ever going to get a number of games out between now and the end of the season? Now, get a number of goals out of him. So I think that number 9 position is certainly one that has to be addressed. But I had a piece on the website, I think it was last week, kind of going through what Rangers might do in January. If you look at Michael Beale came in this time last year, and January only saw Raskin and Cantwell come in. It wasn't this huge overhaul. The overhaul was saved for the summer. I think it'll be a very similar state of affairs this time around. Don't expect Clement to go and bring in 4 or 5 over the space of the one window. One, because the squad's far too big as it is in certain areas, and players will have to be moved on for that. I don't think January is the ideal time for players to move on. Certainly, if Rangers are looking to recoup a lot of the fees they've paid out, you're probably not going to get that over the next month or so. And also, if you look at Rangers' financial position, it was a big outlay in the summer. Obviously invested under Gio, invested really heavily under Michael Beale. So I don't think the finance will be there for another big rebuild over the summer or over the January window. Sorry, I think that adds another layer of importance to the game tonight, because we saw in the accounts out a couple of weeks ago just how important European football is to Rangers in terms of prize money, in terms of Ibrox crowds. If they can get through another couple of rounds, that then boosts what can hopefully be available to the manager come the end of the season. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's just a couple of loan deals, or maybe a kind of buy low, hopefully sell high type of deal during the next window. So anybody that's expecting widespread changes and a bit of money to be spent is going to be disappointed.
Interesting.
There's a right winger in Cyprus. He's a French Moroccan called Faraj, not as in Nigel Farage, but spelled Faraj. He's at AEK Larnaca, and he did really well in the Europa League last season. He's very similar to Riyad Mahrez in how he plays. I think he'd be a good player for Rangers for sure. I think he's only 25 as well.
There you go. If Big Phil's watching the show, I'm sure he tunes in every morning. Get onto it, big man. Go and make an approach. But he sounds a business. Certainly a right wing player is an area that Rangers really need to strengthen. I think there's no doubt about it. Billy McHugh gets in touch and says, I'm 70 today. Hope the J.R.s can give me the best present. Happy birthday, Billy.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, absolutely. And from World's Greatest DJ, this is post to your good self, Stel. It says, talked about the the weather tonight, but he says, how do you still think Ari will handle the Ibrox atmosphere tonight? It should be red hot, I'd imagine, but they've went to, I think they ran Sparta Prague close, sort of blown away by Real Betis. Tonight will be something completely different, though. Do you think they'll revel in that atmosphere still?
It could go either way, in all fairness, because they do have players that have played in hostile environment. But, you know, when you go to Ibrox, you know, I've never been there before, but, you know, you and I, Derek, we've spoken about, you know, my soft spot for Rangers in the past. Yeah, you know, so I've seen it on the television, and I know people that have been to games and players that have played for the club, and they've told me it's a different atmosphere. It's a different one. You don't, it's very difficult to explain until you're actually on that pitch. So is it the stature of the club that might be a bit daunting for Ari? You know, many of these players have never played against a club this size and with this heritage. So that could all play a part. But then again, some of them might feel, right, this is me. I want to play at this level. I want to be at these stadiums week in, week out. While Cyprus is great, weather, etc., but you want to play at that level. You need to prove yourself. And it allows them to put themselves in the shop window. You know, they've got a player called Karol Strudzki that recently got called up to the Polish national team. No disrespect to Cyprus, but I don't think he wants to spend his career in Cyprus. So if he has a good game against Glasgow Rangers at Ibrox, it enhances his chances to play for the national team again, but also he puts himself in the shop window. So I think a lot of them will actually, you know, really look forward to it. Yeah,
it's up to Rangers, as I mentioned again. Can't take them like there's a comment that came in from William, who says this will not be an easy game tonight. The players they have can exploit us on the break. Really, players, I'm sure Philip Clement will be well aware of that. Right, I think that will wrap up there. Stel, if people want to find out more about Cypriot football, how can they find out what you guys do?
Yeah, if you just go on YouTube or X or Instagram and search "This is Mappa," the tagline is there. So "This is Mappa." Thank you, Hugo. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just give us a follow then, or find us on YouTube. If you type in NC Network or type in "This is Mappa," you'll find our podcast. We do an Omonia podcast, which is the club that I support. It's a fan one such as yourselves, and obviously "This is Mappa," which is about Cypriot football. We recorded our latest episode last night. It went on for close to 2 hours because a lot happened in Cyprus. It's, you know, sorry to digress, but in the Premier League, as in the English Premier League, you have, for example, the Newcastle Arsenal goal, and the media were talking about it for 12 days. If that happened in Cyprus, it would be 1 day and done because something else is going to happen. Right, and it's just, so that's why our shows are so long, because we discuss so much. It's ridiculous, but it's fun at the same time. It never gets boring. So yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. Go and check it out, folks. It is very much entertaining. Score prediction tonight, Stel. How do you think it's going to go?
Well, last time I predicted the Rangers win. I'm going to do the same. I'm going to say 2-0 Rangers.
Well, if they get beat,
sorry, Morgan. Sorry.
Good stuff. I'm heading up to Ibrox after this, so cannot wait to head up there. And myself and Chris will be there. We'll have Josh will be there as well. We'll have all the usual pre-match and post-match videos and content to come your way. So plenty to look forward to as well. Just a reminder as well, if you want to subscribe to the website, folks, now is the time to do so. Our best ever deal on there, £12 for an entire year. Head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe for all the details. Right, we'll speak to you a little later on. Bye for now. Thanks for tuning in.